Hello, and welcome to Martini's Econ Country Bites here on Edge Radio Australia. Tonight I have a gentleman, I'll call him a gentleman, he's definitely deserving of that. Man of honour, moral compass, ethics, and definitely a strong backbone. And he's got a few words to say, strong words indeed sometimes, about the state of Australia. But you are not going to find another bloke in here in this nation that's going to fight more for country and regional areas than my friend, one and only Wade Northhausen. Hello, Wade. Welcome to the show.
What's going on there, old mate? How's it going in downtown where you are?
Oh, it's great. Yeah, it's good. As we say, I'm just fine.
Yeah, mate. It's all good, clean fun at the end of the day, eh?
It is indeed. Look, we had a bit of a historical day. We did have a quick chat about it this morning, and I did an interview earlier today. There's some monumental things starting to shift, and what we can say is that people need to get off their backsides because we're starting to see that there is a pushback. Obviously, we had some of the special electors meetings in Western Australia to hold councils accountable. And today in Port Stephens, it was reported that last night there was a council meeting that resulted in councillors Mark Watson and Ben Nyland that put forward a motion to step back and opt out of the hardcore commitment to net zero on the premise that it's going to cause massive economic destruction and a massive impact that's going to heavily affect ratepayers and actually be able to stop them from moving ahead with things just as simple as fixing roads. I was just like, wow, we've gone too far. So today we did an interview, Wade, and it brought to light how much there is so much angst, anger, and frustration from many councillors, and within councils themselves. I have heard from many people there's a lot of infighting. What's your take on that, my friend? What do you make of all of this?
Rightio. So we're starting to see a lot of councils across Australia actually take a strong view on many things, Martine. So, we've seen Port Hedland on all the stuff to do with the DNA contamination of the vaccines. Here in Victoria, we've got councils now are going completely and absolutely ballistic about the Labor government here, the Allen government, wanting them to be the collectors of this horrendous new replacement for the fire services levy tax. They're going off their head now, really chucking a red hot spaz about that. So that's great. And we'll talk about that a bit later. But yes, this whole thing about this net zero, to see one of your councils that you're talking about there who have actually made a conscious decision to say we recognise how dangerous this net zero crap is. This is the biggest load of anyway, it's not
garbage.
Good stuff. That's the one.
That's the nice word.
We are
total bullshit is the other. Yes. Yeah, we're on, but this is Edge Radio, so we call a spade here, my friend. It's total bullshit. We know that.
So and look, and we're having a bit of a quick laugh and a bit of a joke there at the minute, but the damage and the real life hassles and dramas and catastrophes that this getting to net zero is causing people. Whether you're looking at farmers, whether you're looking at motorists, transport industry, construction industry, manufacturing, of which there's virtually stuff all left, and in particular electricity. Our energy under these policies for net zero, our electricity system is being systematically destroyed. Now, they claim that they've got to get rid of all the coal-fired power stations and build this renewable energy just crap. This cannot possibly do the job. It will continue and finish breaking the country. And I'm here to tell you right now that this stuff, despite what that scumbag Bowen low-life piece of crap tells us, the fact of the matter is this is not cheap energy. This is not cheap electricity.
This is where I say hold my beer, mate, because this is the statistics from today that I was utterly horrified at. So in Port Stephens, the local power station, which is the Kurri Kurri gas power station, has had issues with gas supply because they can't get enough gas to keep it going. Just like, we're not talking about rocket science here. We're just talking about gas supply. So making sure that there's enough gas flowing through those pipes to keep this kicking along so they've got power. No. Listen to this. So we're talking about we want to get rid of coal and all this other stuff, but this is what's happened because they have not maintained these systems. It is now daily or every 30 hours burning 3.6 million litres of diesel because it can't get the gas. Now, gas is pretty clean. I'm like, let's back this up. 3.6 million litres of diesel in a 30-hour period is used to power that power station. And I am just horrified. I'm just like, the cost of that. And we're talking about, we've got to turn away from like all of this fossil fuel stuff. What a load of garbage. We should be sticking with what should have been already there, which was clean, good quality coal. It's the same as what's going here in WA. I was horrified when I learnt that today. So could you imagine the cost of that for a start? Not just that, but the government is, I feel, deliberately sabotaging the supply lines. So it's causing these issues. And then what will happen? So we'll kick back and say, oh, well, you know, we've got to do this and we've got to do this. And then they'll blame it on our decision to stop it. And I'm like, oh, for God's sake. And it's like, I feel like they're trying to cause checkmate on us, but all we can say is that we're done with the games. I think the gloves are coming off. And the fact that those councillors have stood up, stood with their community and finally said what needed to be said. And the fact that they got that vote across. Bravo. Bravo, Port Stephens.
Yep.
Now, how do we get this everywhere else?
Thumbs up from over here, Victoria and Billboard Battalion, you know, absolutely 100% behind. Get the hell out of this thing. This net zero is a suicide mission. And that's what it's designed to be. You know, if you go into the global politics like I do, and you and I have discussed many times before, wiping out the electricity supply and the food supply is the objective. So, you know, and when you spoke a bit there before about, you know, the gas and so on, you know, I want to make it very, very clear that as people who are pushing back against this disastrous renewable energy rollout, and they're blowing up the coal-fired power stations, we need also to be saying to the public, because I can tell you this is where the government's going to go at some point, we need to be saying, get rid of this net zero crap, get rid of this renewable that's a fraud, and bring back coal-fired power stations. So you don't leave us with nothing, and that's what their aim is. So they can say, well, under climate change, you know, we haven't got enough electricity, and it's your fault because you didn't want renewables. No, understand very, very clearly, the government is a part of the World Economic Forum, the United Nations and the World Health Organizations, and the
Goa Agreement.
Yep. And their specific objective is to wipe out electricity supply. That is their specific goal. That's what net zero is all about. That's the only thing it's about. They will be sitting up there laughing their heads off at people who go, oh, yes, I believe in climate change. We've got to get to... They will be laughing their guts out at those people. And they'll also be laughing their guts out at people who are fighting with everything they've got just to stay in business. So
this is the quickest way to destabilize a nation, is to take away its power, sustainable power and its stability in power supplies. So that is the quickest way. Look what happened in Portugal and Spain and those four or five nations that when they went over to renewables, do you know what they did? They turned around. I was like the oxymoron on that. Turned around and said some atmospheric abnormality or unusual activity caused the failure. And I'm like, wait a second. So what you're saying is some natural phenomenon caused a total failure of that green renewables, solar and wind powered grid to collapse within so many hours of being turned on, when we know we are going down the same path, and we've got to push back right now because we are having to learn really fast from all of these nations that are failing. And here's Asiona from Spain and all of these other Spanish and other nations that are coming in here trying to impose this on us, and we're looking at their nations and going, you're failing and you think we're going to follow in your footsteps. Come on. No way, we can't do this, Wade. This is insane.
No.
Insane.
No, it is. It's crap from start to finish. So, you know, I liken this, you know, to some things I talked a little bit earlier about, you know, with regard to a lot of the farming that we do over here is irrigated agriculture. You know, some of the best production we've got and the best areas is with irrigated agriculture. And, you know, 15 years ago, they tried to, or they brought in a thing called the Murray-Darling Basin Plan. And, you know, there were many people who said, oh, well, look, you know, the thing about the plan, you know, it's sort of okay, but we need to tweak it a bit. And, you know, it's a bit flawed and all this sort of thing. And I said to many people then, hell no, this is not flawed. This is designed to wipe out your farmers, wipe out food production and the communities that rely on it. That is its sole objective. And we must say, you kill this thing dead. Well, there is no negotiating with terrorists. The government are terrorists. They are not interested in anything. They want to get this over the line and they want to wipe you out. So as a community, as a country, exactly the same as we should have done with the Murray-Darling Basin Plan, we need to do with this renewable energy crap and the net zero, and you go, no way. There is no movement. There's no give and take. There is, you go to hell right now and you take this stuff and you shove it and you rack the hell off. So
most people don't comprehend the level of why they're being held hostage, because they're being pressured into power purchase agreements. And what came out of the conversation today should be enraging people all across Australia, is that councils are being pushed into these PPAs, these power purchase agreements with these clean energy suppliers. And when you question and look into it and say, so how much of the PPA that you forced us into under this net zero came from this so-called green energy green renewables energy supply, it goes down to such a minimal amount that it's like they're paying premium, or they're paying a certain amount because, oh, they're going green, so that's what the cost is. But the energy has never come from them because they've had wind and wind droughts and not enough solar energy coming in from sunny days to even get them across the line to have bare minimum. And people are paying premium for that. So when it comes down to it, then we know what the backup is. Oh, they're going back to coal and gas, or in this case, diesel. And I'm like, okay, this is a scam. There is no such thing as a power purchase agreement, because there is not a system and a grid in place that could ever replace and give power security, energy security on the level that coal is giving currently and has done for how many years? What's the history? 60, 70, 80 years? Maybe longer, because I know my grandfather worked in those coal mines when I was really, really young, when he was very young, I should say. So, you know, Wade, there comes a point here where it's like, this is what I've heard from councillors all across Australia and Western Australia, saying that they're being pushed into this because councils are being signed up to net zero agreements, and it's absolute garbage. People are going to be paying through the nose for every single thing. And this is just now. This is $500,000 to offset what's happening at Port Stephens. That's as of today, but we know that is going to increase, right? It's going to increase and affect everything.
So a number of things to keep in mind. But first of all, this whole disaster has been in the planning stage for 70 years about how to destroy the electricity system. And in the 1980s, here in Victoria, Jeff Kennett was the premier at that point, and him and another scumbag, Pat McNamara, who was the deputy premier, he was the leader of the Nationals. They flogged off the SEC, the State Electricity Commission, or the coal-fired generators. And they said, I can remember hearing Pat McNamara say, "Oh, God, we're so lucky to get out of these things, sell them off to a private company because they're all stuffed. You know, it's going to cost an absolute fortune to upgrade them and refurbish them, what have you." Now, they deliberately ran them down. They deliberately did not maintain them. They deliberately,
exactly what's happening now.
They deliberately did that. So then they had some plausible excuse to the public as to why they flogged them off to private enterprise. Now, this stuff should never, ever be sold to private anything, for a start, because it's not in the country's best interest to have private corporations owning your electricity supply. So
you can turn them on and off at the switch. Bye.
And that's
smart meters.
And that's a part of the reason why they brought in all these burn your house down kind of smart meter things. But that's another story. But where I was going with that, Martine, is the gas supply. They deliberately make sure there's interruptions to whatever makes this thing work. Now, you see they're flogging our gas off to foreign corporates for virtually nothing. Virtually nothing. You know, I think we're the number one or number two biggest exporter of gas in the world. We're flogging it off as fast as we can. And now in Victoria here, these pieces of scum, the Labor Party, and I mean the coalition would do exactly the same thing, as they are at the minute in Sydney, are saying new houses can't have any gas appliances. Now, they're increasing.
Okay, so this is where I go, how dare anyone dictate to another person what their choices are? Isn't that where the democratic system has complete? And this is where people need to put themselves in check and go, we are starting to live in a communist regime when you're getting choices taken away from you and you're being dictated to what you can and can't do, how many children you can have because your carbon imprint. Like, come on, this is a slippery slope. You've nailed it, Wade. Like, it's just getting to the point now. It's been in the plans for so long that people need to wake up now.
Oh, absolutely. And sadly, it seems to be that most people don't wake up until you know they're chopping your house down, or they've cut off your fuel and food, and you go, hey, what happened? Why isn't the lights on? You know, people wait to that point. We've had decades of warnings. They tell you up front what they're doing, and people just don't take any notice. So to a very large degree, they have no one to blame but themselves. Because I'll tell you right now, I've been doing this for 40 years, and the amount of people that go, oh, look, I'm not interested in politics. Oh, I don't care. You know, well, everything that you're losing is because of politics, and they're doing it because you don't care. Remember this. The whole thing with COVID, the entire COVID fiasco was 100% political, and they could do it because people didn't care about politics. Well,
they just complied.
Hey?
They complied. They just let it steamroll right over them.
I'm not so much compliant. I'm thinking maybe apathetic, useless, hopeless, don't care, lazy.
Mixed bag on that one.
You know what I mean? So we're seeing more and more people now starting to wake up and go, holy crap, what's going on here? Like in Victoria here a while ago, only the last month or so, you know, they had the announcement of this new thing from the Allen Labor government, but make no mistake, it's not only the Allen Labor government, the Emergency Services and Volunteers Fund. And what that basically is a replacement of your old fire services levy, but this thing is like a rocket on steroids. You know, this is massive, hundreds of % increases, this new thing. And we saw massive protests here in Victoria just a month or so ago because a lot of the people who it's supposed to be representing, like a lot of the Country Fire Authority firefighters,
Volunteers.
firefighters here, they're the ones who have got to be paying this levy because they're landholders, etc. And they're the ones who are turning out to fight the fires. So, and, you know, I was talking to Brett Hosking there, the leader of the Victorian Farmers Federation, on the 20th of, I think it was May, 20th of June. No, May, I think it might have been. And anyway, we're in Melbourne, and he said that he was talking to a bloke who their increase on their rates is going to go up by, now, give us a drum roll, okay, for all the people who are useless and lazy and don't want to fight. Their increase per annum was going to be $100,000 increase per annum every year for nothing more than what they're getting now.
Yeah.
And, you know, and I don't know if people can understand how offensive that is, but that is on all land. So if you own a house or you own a business or whatever, you know, that's the situation. And I want to say something about that. You know, we need to understand, Martine, what this is actually about, because, you know, some people I know, some of the leaders in the ag sector, you know, top people, I've known them for years and years and years. They're really, really terrific people. But they stand up in front of a crowd at a protest and say, oh, this is about the Labor Party's, they can't manage a budget, and Jacinda Allen's trying to get Victoria out of the crap and all that. Hell no, it has nothing at all to do with that, with the greatest of respect.
It wouldn't matter who was in place. Her name was Jacinta, John, Tom, or anyone else. She was just the puppet put in place to roll this out because it's been planned.
Yes, it is. And what this is about putting in place policies that destroy people's ability to own land. Because one of the big ticket items, one of the biggest ticket items on the World Economic Forum and the United Nations and the WHO agenda is to take everybody's land off them.
Reclaim the land, that's correct.
Another one of those things. So we need to focus, when we're talking about things, Martine, we need to focus on the big picture stuff, and all the small stuff is absolutely critical, but keep in mind where it's coming from.
Yeah. And that's where joining the dots for people. So across the board, this is where it's coming down from the top down, and the implementers of all of these finer details all come down to your local council and shires. And this is where we are saying you need to push back at a local level. For those that understand the next hierarchy of how that comes through the state and federal level, we need to push back at that also, because it has to be a multi-pronged approach where we're calling out the absolute BS that this is. I want to go back to when you were talking about offensive. So that's that's soul destroying. It's not even just offensive. It's criminal to charge someone who's a volunteer to volunteer their time. So basically, instead of giving them, they used to get some money and to support them, so pay for some of their petrol to turn up to these fires, that kind of stuff. I know that's a lot of that's all been cut out. So now you're charging them to turn up to save other people's properties. I mean, that's a kick in the guts. I want to read this out. This is a councillor from the Port Stephens Council. This is the comments that this individual, is the nicest word I could call them, his Councillor Arnott, please go and watch that video. He was referring to community members, ratepayers, and residents by these kinds of names. It went on, and his hysteria and extremism in the way that he was speaking about the people in the community was truly, truly disturbing. He was accusing people in the community of and misinformation, or misinformation. That word alone knows who you're working for. He called them bad actors in the community. Bad actors. So you and I would be bad actors because we're challenging the science, we're challenging the narrative here, and we're saying we are not going to allow you to destroy our nation for the sake of these foreign global policies that have been implemented and are here without our consent, and we are not going to let this happen, and we're pushing back. So that's bad actors. The last thing he said, these are all occurring in quiet, dark circles, or in corners, sorry, quiet, dark corners. And I'm like, quiet, dark corners? That sounds like some dodgy, sleazy nightclub we're all hanging out in and conspiring. I'm like, no, we're just out here openly talking about it. But they're talking about there's some kind of conspiracy that they're trying to say that is going on in quiet, dark corners, conspiring to stop this moving ahead because the people are being given the wrong information. They need to stop moving forward with everything, let this still play out as it is, and they give the correct information or programming narrative back to the community. Can you imagine a counsellor referred to people as bad actors in their community? How disgusting is that?
Well, Martine, I can tell you right now, I've been called a million times worse things than that. From politicians, from councillors. So this bloke is only a rank amateur, really. He needs to do a few more courses on how to really get stuck into somebody. But anyway, I'd put it to you, this bloke's nothing more than just a scumbag and a low life, and is pushing a narrative that is going to get people killed. So we're dealing with a big picture stuff here, that this whole renewable energy crap is about shutting down energy supply, and we're going to see in summertime and wintertime old people dying from no air conditioning, no heating, no ability to stay warm. And I know I've spoken to many people before who do things like Meals on Wheels, and they've got, they'll do meals to somebody's place, and an old person will come out in their dressing gown, pick up a meal for lunch, and then go back inside and say, well, they're going back to bed because they can't afford the heater, they can't afford the electricity to drive this stuff. So now this clown, this clown, and as I said, these are my opinions. I'm not laying this on your mob, your radio station crowd. But at the end of the day, this bloke is a scumbag. They're pushing policies that are destroying our country. I see many of these ideological and brain-dead half-wits. And when they talk about the science, they're mistaking the science. Let me tell you, mate, you can buy a scientist for about $1.50 a week. They have lost all credibility. The climate scientists that push this are lowlifes. They are dishonest. And they're in the business of helping to sell an absolute fraud. Yeah. Absolute fraud, and destroy our country. And, we see a lot of our universities pushing this crap, and I dare say that's where this bloke's come from. I don't know, but once again, these are my opinions. So people in the Shire...
He's well indoctrinated regardless.
Oh, yeah, wouldn't have a brain in their head. Wouldn't be able to tell the truth if someone was dangling them over a cliff. But at the end of the day, one of the very, very important things you just mentioned is the term misinformation and disinformation. Now, I want people to understand where we are at. What's that?
It was like ping, as soon as that came out of his mouth, I went, oh, here we are. So he's banging the mis and disinformation bell. We're back to that again. Yep, I saw that. That's why they want to delay the vote. That's why they wanted to delay the vote.
People need to understand what that means. Now, we fought against the misinformation and disinformation bill federally at the end of last year. And it only was defeated by a couple of votes in the Senate. Now, this Bowen and Wong, and our old mate Sleazy Albanese, they now control both houses of Parliament. So expect things to get ugly and rough. Expect that this other filth baggy commissioner horror of a thing is going to start coming after people and shutting you down because you're saying something that they don't like. And with the implementation, it appears on the 19th of July this year, we're going to be dealing with the international health regulations and the One Health policy. They will claim that anything you say about what you and I are talking about now will be illegal. It will be a crime. So I want.
Did you hear that, people?
Yeah.
Did you hear it? Play that back.
So I speak all the time about this international health regulations and them taking over the power of everything. And this is quite literally where the government of the day, which is they're criminals and traitors, we know that, they are now handing complete jurisdiction of Australia, complete sovereignty of Australia over to the World Health Organization terrorists. And I want people to understand, if we don't pull out of this by the 19th of July this year, in under 2 weeks, and we have to pull out of it. It's not a case of we sign up to it. We're already signed up to it. We have to pull out. They will have the power to shut down any speech, publication, social media, mainstream media, your right to hold a public meeting to discuss this stuff.
Just to simply question what's going on and why things are being done the way they are, to even question that, to come together and gather and go, well, we need to understand why this is happening. And in that, there is the questioning. So science is only science if it can be questioned. Otherwise, it's dictatorship, it's tyranny, and it's communism. Talking of communism, I want to just quickly, before we run out of time, is talk about the $12,000 fine that the lovely Jacinta Allen is trying to impose on farmers and landowners if they try and block these so-called green energy suppliers, these foreign corporations and pirates coming in onto your land. What the heebie-jeebies, like $12,000 to stop them coming onto your property. So they've got a free pass to come onto your property anytime they want. Come on. So
all this is based around the whole idea of fighting climate change. We've got to have this renewable energy crap to fight climate change. So what's happened here is people are jacking them up. Farmers are jacking them up, saying, no, you're not coming onto our place. So therefore, the first step is that the Labor Party here in Victoria, and once again, if the coalition were in, they'd be doing it. They are saying, if you try and block access to your own private property, your freehold land that you own completely, if you try and block that, you are going to get a $12,200 and something fine. What the hell? Now, the second part of it is, I believe that the situation is if you fail to give your name, your identification, that I think brings a $4,000 fine. And if you remove a bit of a notice on your fence or something like that, you take that down. I think that's $1,000 or just over $1,000. So, and we haven't even started. This hasn't even started, and they're pulling these tactics now. So, people need to understand this is so serious.
How is this going to be prosecuted, and who's going to be the judge and jury on this? Is this going through local council, or is this going to go through those that are overlooking the national energy grid under federal government?
So I would imagine, and now I can't tell you for a fact, I don't know.
Okay. But we need to check up on this, people.
I imagine it will be Victoria Police, and
they've got such a great track record over the last 4 or 5 years, don't they?
Hell no. So, and what I expect to happen is, at the minute, it would be Victoria Police. Now, and this is something that I want people to take deadly seriously. Given the things that we're seeing internationally and how Australia is ceding its sovereignty, I believe that this will end up being enforced by not only VicPol or your state police in every state, but also Australia's military and foreign military. Because we've seen changes in Canberra recently to allow foreign military to operate with impunity in Australia.
Private militia. Yeah, of course. So, that's what we saw during the lockdown, didn't we? Private militia being brought into Victoria to run the streets. That went really well. Worldwide, that got great coverage about just how democracy was alive and such respect for human beings in Australia that still gets played all around the world, some of that video footage. My friend, before we do start running out of time, how is it we need to encourage people or get them to realise that without coming together and pushing back now at a local level, state and federal, and saying we want out of net zero and we want out of the World Health Organization? And it needs to be from all, because again, it comes back to local councils are going to be under this jurisdiction. They are the ones that will be following through also with a lot of this. So how is it that people can push back with the decision that's going to be made on the 19th? People can go to your page and look at, you have some information there that people can do and follow through with that. Is that correct?
You know, we've got a really terrific interview that I did a couple of weeks ago with Katie Ashby-Coppins, and she is one of the original founders of the Aligned Council of Australia. She's also a lawyer. She practices here in Victoria, in Australia, and I think also New Zealand. And you know, she is across this stuff like you couldn't imagine. So there's a great interview there. Where she tells us a lot of the stuff that you need to be very, very worried about. And I think, you know, one of the main things, Martine, that we see across industry, we see across government, and we see across even the freedom movement. Stop buttering things over. Stop you know, coating things in sugar. Tell people the damn truth. You know, this is stuff that they will kill you with, and we need all these wankers who go, oh, we can't say too much. You know, tell people the damn truth, because I'm here to tell you that is the most courageous thing we can do. Yeah, we know stuff's going down, and it's only with people telling the truth that others are going to know. If we say, oh, there's nothing to see here, that's what's caused the problem to date. I know in the agricultural sector, many of the leaders, the Victorian Farmers Federation, New South Wales, NFF, WA Farmers, West Australian Pastorals and Graziers, all absolutely, completely pathetic, useless. You couldn't start them with a set of jumper leads and a tin aerostat, I'm here to tell you. Then they will not tell you the truth. They cover things up. They don't want to know. Well, there's a big part of your problem. The freedom movement is exactly the same. Our unions, the unions will not tell their workers the truth. And your politicians across the board, your media across the board, lie to you. Yeah. They don't tell you that this is happening. So we need to rip it up, these politicians. And right now in the next couple of weeks, particularly our federal politicians, because we need Mark Butler, who's a federal Labor Party politician, to write to the WHO, draw Australia from this disaster. We need to absolutely melt down the government's every sort of communication they have, because I want you to know that if things go very, very bad, which they're 99% going to, I want people to understand who is responsible. Your politicians are responsible. They are the primary ones. They know this is happening. They're a part of it, and they're not warning you one iota, as well as your mainstream media.
And it's been, I mean, all of this and the way it's structured and trying to stop freedom of speech, to question this and to push back, has been clearly illustrated by those comments, by calling people NIMBYs, by calling them spreaders of misinformation, bad actors, quiet, dark corner dwellers. Like that in itself, when you're talking about conspiring, when you're talking about people coming together, this is where the law comes into place. We've talked about this. People underestimate what happened in the changes to legislation now under federal acts, where if you are interfering with energy suppliers in Australia, you are a domestic terrorist.
Absolutely.
And I want people to comprehend this. If you do not realize this now and push back, this is how you will be seen as a domestic terrorist. That's insane.
Exactly. I mean, you just have to look at the POMs over there at the minute, right? They're that dumb, the English over there, that's stupid, that they have allowed their country to get to a situation where they now get locked up in jail just for speaking.
Yeah.
Now, I mean, you want to talk about slow.
Women can't even walk in the streets with the immigration issues that they've got there. I mean, is this what we want? You're right. This is why we need to learn now from all of these nations what's gone wrong. We can't make the same mistakes, Wayne. We can't.
And we're only millimeters off this being done deal where you can't fix it. So I mean, there's a thing happening up in I think it's on the Gold Coast next weekend, not this weekend, coming next one on the 19th and 20th. Now, the number one clown in Australia, Michael Gray Griffith, is one of the keynote speakers of this thing, and they're calling it the freedom of speech something or other. And they go, "You people completely mad? Like, what the hell is wrong with you? Freedom of speech is almost dead." And if we sign up to these IHRs or don't pull out of them by the 19th of July, exactly the day they're doing the first day of this stupid looking thing, this so-called freedom of speech, that's the very day that officially freedom of speech is murdered in Australia by handing the power over to the WHO, who intend to assassinate freedom of speech. I mean, how stupid can these people possibly be?
We need to get people doing something and doing it now. All right, let's come up with some ideas in the coming days. Let's get some information out there, my friend. It's always a pleasure having a chat, having a good yarn, and finding out what's going on the ground, my friend. It's like we do temper ourselves, but sometimes we do want to let loose.
Well, you ain't seen nothing yet, really, kiddo, at the minute. But I mean,
I know.
Yeah. If
Look,
we ever
Wade,
do light the fire in a big way, they're going to know about it.
All I can say, my friend, is I'm forever grateful, and on behalf of so many other people that know that you're out there fighting hard all day, every day, you and your whole team. Thank you so much, and thanks for joining me on Edge Radio Australia today.
And you too, Martine. Like, you do a massive job, mate. I know half the stuff you do, and that's amazing in itself. People you work with, you've got other people across there as well. Your radio station, your networks, all the people who fight with you and beside you. Well done, mate. I'll tell you something. You are one gutsy warrior, and I know blokes who are 6 foot 8 high. They're weak as crap, absolute gutless, pathetic wonders. And you just blow them out of the water. Come on, Australia, for Christ's sake, get your act together and get in this fight, because that's the Anzac spirit, mate. That's what we need. And the most important thing is shoot from the hip, shoot straight, and tell the goddamn truth. That's the most important thing. Get people motivated, get in this battle, and save your country and your kids, because they are coming for them.
Yeah. We're only going to win this united, and it's united as Team Australia. Thanks, my friend. Chat soon.
Good on you. Thanks a lot, Martine.